Hello everyone and welcome back to the ESV Korean Weekly Season 3. We're going to jump to our last match of the night. Sorry for those of you that wanted to watch more StarCraft. We will be back tomorrow, of course, with the semifinals and the finals, as well as the last two quarterfinal games that we didn't get to do. But this is going to be our quarterfinal match. The STC against GanZi, and the map's going to be on Vicious. Let's take a look, since the quarterfinals actually have that as the starting map. We haven't seen it at all yet today. There it is, ESV Vicious, a new map coming out from Prodigy. You can follow him on Twitter at coL.GanZi. So just to go over this map briefly for you guys, of course, 4 main base spawns here. Natural's pretty easy to defend. You just have I believe it's like the same size opening as you have on Cloud Kingdom. That's kind of just like a little choke point there. Leading out from that, there's a platform that has 2 ramps on it. So these two entrances, this one has actually destructible rocks blocking about half of it, maybe a little bit less than half of it. This one is completely wide open, so it allows you to go kind of take a third over here and have like a little bit of a choke point right here, and then just a little bit of a smaller choke point leading in to your naturally, so you don't have as many counterattack paths available. But there's a high ground above this third right here, so really important, especially in TVT where tanks are going to be used all the time. Not only is there a high ground here with a base available, but there's actually some line of sight blockers, some like smoke screen right here. So you can like land like tanks right here out of vision, siege this base, no problem. What's a really important feature of this map is that there are 4 Xel'Naga towers around the center of the map. These Xel'Naga towers are absolutely pivotal. This map was designed with this specifically in mind. It's really designed to reward players that really pay attention to the Xel'Naga towers and really value holding them, because they're in exposed locations, kind of just out on the low ground in this kind of wide open area, so they're hard to hold, and there's upper ground above them. But if you do hold them, you have control of every single attack path through the center of the map. So unbelievably crucial. There's also a lot of awesome weird doodads on the map of like Zerg units getting tortured, and I thought for fun I would go ahead and read the statement that Prodigy wrote on the thread. You messaged me on Skype. Basically what he wrote about why there's all these like weird doodads on it. I'm reading this word for word, guys, so don't get mad at me if this is offensive or something. He says, the aesthetic concept stemmed from my desire to play with Castanar doodads, followed by me tapping into my inner hatred for asshole, cheeser, noob, fraud zergs who 3-hatch Hydra busted me every game on Heartbreak Ridge and Fighting Spirit in D+ Icy Cup. I hate each and every one of you with a passion, and as such, the map is littered with Zerg units getting abused. The overall idea here is a Terran facility with experimental tools all over the place, as well as a nice astroturfed middle area. Of course, a little bit of joking in there, guys. Don't take it too literally. Of course, I'm sure he's mad at those Zerg players, as everyone was back on Icy Cup, except the players that were doing it, of course. But gotta love Prodigy for that. Let's jump in and get this game started, though. Oh, where's my
I am ready.
Awesome. Let's get it started. Here it is. Game 1 in this best-of-3 quarterfinal match between the STC in the top left position, representing Old Generations as our red Terran, against his opponent in the top right position, GanZi as our blue Terran, representing Team Complexity. And Prodigy is actually in chat right now. He's like, it sounds so much more angry when someone reads it out loud. LOL.
It sounded pretty angry when I read it in my head too, but anyway.
I think he meant it in a more lighthearted, joking manner.
He meant it in a good way?
It sound.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to show you guys, since there's nothing that's going to happen in early game TVT anyways, let's take a look at some of these ridiculous doodads. There's like some stuff in some tubes over here. This one's my favorite over here. This Ultralisk is like chained to this, and it's one of those doodads kind of like the Space Shark that only moves when units are near it out of the fog of war. And it actually is like struggles against the lines and pulls against it. It's pretty cool. I believe there's like a Hydralisk being like dissected over here. It actually dissects it and like pulls out organs when units are near it. This one, there's like a big Ultralisk in a dome. And of course we have our trusty Space Shark floating high and mighty in the center of the map. As well as our Artosis bot and Tasteless bot. Pretty darn cool.
2000.
Nice shout out. Yeah, 2000. Nice shout out to those guys, ball and casters. But I did have to mention, I don't know if Prodigy was watching yesterday when I was talking about this. He separated them, man. How can you separate Artosis and Tasteless? It's like cruel,
torture.
man. Yeah, it's torture. They're casting Archon. You got to put them together like they were on Sungsu Crossing. But in any case, to stop, gushing over the map and talk about the game, we saw gas first come out of both these players. So both players want to rush up the fastest factory possible. What do you think? What do you think on this map? What type of strategies do you think we're going to see from these players based on the really quick factory?
Yeah, well, with the SDC's barracks positioning, this is kind of almost guaranteed to be Banshee build, but GanZi's a little bit more ambiguous. You know, you could still go for, like, it's not really done, but you could still go for Blue Flame. You could do all kinds of things. So it'll be interesting, but just in general, the fact they both went gas first is pretty interesting. Often the first player to kind of pick up on that will gain an advantage because you don't generally assume that your opponent did that. So just kind of got to see what these two guys do. And I will also point out that with these spawn locations, it does create an interesting dynamic, and it's going to be interesting to see because there are a lot of people who said this map doesn't seem. Obviously, I don't think any of these people who said actually played on the map, but a lot of people, the initial thoughts they had were that this map doesn't look like it would be fair to not have locked spawn locations. So I was kind of hoping to see a really long game here, a long drawn-out game to see how that would come into play. But gas first gas first usually doesn't produce the longest games.
Interestingly, we saw just a slight deviation in builds. GanZi went for the 15 orbital command, whereas the STC went for the more standard nowadays 16 orbital. So his orbital, his factory, they're all just ever so slightly later, but he has an extra SCV in there as well. So, that slight little econ lead. Of course, the earlier mules coming up from GanZi. A lot of people are saying 16 orbital is better nowadays, so I don't know, man. GanZi's gonna have a slightly quicker factory though, so and he's just dropping a reactor, so it looks like he's just gonna go reactor Hellion. Maybe we'll see a starport. Yeah, the starport has been added on now. Starport a little bit quicker from the STC though, and he's putting it right onto a tech lab. So we're gonna see a Banshee rush here from the STC. No second gas though, so it's not going to be cloak.
Yep.
This looks kind of like the standard play we saw players like Puma do way back in the day, just all the time, kind of like a 1-on-1 in TVT. You just get a Banshee, maybe two, put on some aggression, get some SCV kills if you micro properly, and then maybe get a Viking, prepare against your opponent's, Banshees if they go for them, or Medivacs if they go for drops. But overall, just go into a standard game with, with Marine Tank.
And the SDC actually going for a Viking. I'm kind of in shock here. You go gas first, build it on a Tech Lab Barracks.
What?
But
wow.
you know what happened?
Banshee to do that.
The two Hellions hit each other in the center of the map, and so SDC immediately. In fact, both of these players, they're so good. I'm sure they both did. They both recognized that for a Hellion to be there at that time, your opponent mirrored you. Yeah. And did the same thing. So he picked up on the fact that his opponent also went gas first. So he's expecting a Banshee, but that's not actually what's coming. What's coming is just a Marine Hellion Medivac timing attack, and this may just be a build order loss. This may just be the fact that he used his barracks to build all these add-ons, whereas his opponent only made the single reactor, which actually increases his overall production. And you can see now he's actually going to go ahead and swap a little bit here. So he's going to reinforce with more Hellions. And
that's a cool move.
Yeah, no, this is actually so random to see him doing it, because this is something I was actually experimenting a little bit with on the ladder.
I like that, man.
Doing these kinds of builds. You just rally all the units of these 3 production buildings over, and
quicker.
Exactly. So we'll see how it comes out. It all comes down to micro.
It's just like in ZVT, or ZV anything, reinforcing with lings instead of reinforcing with roaches. They just get across the map quicker. But this Viking might actually shut this down. I mean, this is such a hard build to hold off sometimes. This Marine Hellion, Marine Hellion Medivac build. It can be really, really hard to hold off, but these 2 Vikings from the SCC are just working wonders for him. But there's also a Viking from GanZi. I thought maybe that was going to be a Medivac. Just a Viking coming out of the main just to get some scouting information. Maybe it'll land in the mineral line. Do some damage here. Who knows? Might pull the Vikings out of position. Actually, he's pulling the Hellions out of position. He is going to land, but the Hellions are right there, so he's unfortunately going to lose that Viking. Maybe that'll give him time to get his main army into the main base or into position, but the Medivac goes down. Yeah,
beautiful play there. And now all of a sudden, he is going to be able to hold his ramp with ease, and guess what? He's got a command center, and his opponent does not. So this is very difficult here for GanZi to really do anything. He may just try and bust up the ramp, but with 3 Vikings that he can land with a tank now out, he just missed his window, basically.
I love that play by the SCC, just really rushing out those early Vikings, not just against potential Banshees, but clearly against this build. I mean, how many times have we seen this build in TVT lately? It's like the TVT build right now, and oh my god, the SDC moves down the ramp. He's got 1 siege tank in there. He's just going for the engagement right now. GanZi has a much better army, though. SDC just threw away this game. He honestly just threw away this game. He had a command center. There was literally no reason to attack whatsoever. He could have just either made a bunker or just sat on top of his ramp, and he just moved down the ramp against a superior army, and that's GG, man. I can't believe he just did that.
Yeah, I think, and there's the GG right there. I think he just didn't quite understand the build because when you're reinforcing, usually you're just reinforcing with the Marines and pumping out a single Hellion, but that Hellion count just, it goes up so fast when they're reactored and popping out. And I mean, he was just like, okay, yeah, no, I held off the attack. I'm sure he's at home. He's waiting for his command center to finish. I'm just gonna move down, get my thing done. But nope, that's not what happened. He just got massacred.
Indeed, he did, man. Pretty straightforward, in fact, right at the end. So let's jump into game 2 and see if the STC can have a better showing and maybe make a comeback here and bring us to game 3, or if GanZi is getting continuous tear here and go for another 2-0. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with that